Thank you for tuning in to the Catch a Lift Fund's Coach's Corner podcast. We hope you enjoy today's episode and will consider supporting the Catch a Lift Fund and the veterans we serve. Visit our website for more information about our programs at catchaliftfund.org. If you are experiencing a mental health crisis or suicidal thoughts, please call 988 or the Veterans Crisis Line 988, followed immediately by the number 1. The views and opinions expressed during the Coach's Corner podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the Catch a Lift Fund. The Catch a Lift Fund does not verify or warrant the truth or accuracy of statements made during the podcast, and statements therein are not to be construed as an official policy or position of the Catch a Lift Fund. This podcast is provided for informational purposes only, and nothing herein should be construed as health, medical, or other professional advice. The Coach's Corner is a place for veterans to connect, heal, and share their stories. I'm Melissa Luke, the host of the Coach's Corner podcast. I am a U.S. Army Iraq War veteran, coach, and program director for the Catch a Lift Fund. The Coach's Corner is sponsored by ID Technologies. Welcome to this week's episode of the Coach's Corner. We're excited to bring you another new episode of Coach's Corner, this week with Cal coach and U.S. Marine Corps veteran Adam Gutierrez. Adam coaches our amazing Cal veterans through the TRX Wellness Program, and we're so excited to talk about the TRX program within Catch a Lift today with Adam. Welcome to this week's episode of Coach's Corner. Adam, welcome.
Thank you guys for having me, and it's going to be awesome to talk about the TRX and the TRX Wellness Program.
Absolutely. Let's jump right into it, Adam. Adam, talk to us a little bit about coaching at Cal. You initially started as a veteran yourself within the program.
Yes, I did. I went through the CrossFit program with Coach Sarah Rudder, and then fell in love with the Olympic lifting. And then, thankfully, again, through Catch a Lift, they helped me get my USAW Level 1 weightlifting certification, which was an amazing experience. And then, a couple months after that, it was like, do you want to, come on board and help coach other veterans? And, it's been probably the most rewarding, career or, job I've ever had, since leaving the military. It's amazing to see how you can get some veterans that come in and, are just so negative on themselves, that negative self-talk. And then at the end of 8 weeks, it's like, oh man, thank you for getting me motivated. And, I work out 4 or 5 days a week now, and I've lost all this weight. And it's like, that's all on you. I was just here to help you, it's like, you have to realize you still have that strength that you think you left behind. Cause you maybe got injured in the military, and, maybe you got medically separated, and it was kind of a hard thing to deal with. But then you see they look in themselves and they're like, man, this has been, and it's, an amazing experience. And then they get that, the network that Catch a Lift provides, which is amazing. Cause it's like, oh, I reach out to this vet and this coach, and they've helped me with this. And it's just, it's amazing to see, because it's like, you know what they have in them, but they don't see that themselves. And then when they finally, it's like, it clicks, then they're just like, oh man, I want to do this, let's do this, oh my God, how did you, become a coach, or how did you get certified, these. And it's amazing to see, because it's all different, military backgrounds. It's all different military careers. You have some that were only in for a couple of years, some that did 20 years, some did more.
Absolutely.
And just they just miss that, the camaraderie, that family, and Catch a Lift provides that, which is, I think, not just veterans need, I think everybody needs.
Yeah, absolutely. And today really more than ever. And it's absolutely incredible though. Like you said, the transformation that you can witness a veteran go through in 8 weeks. I mean, it's absolutely astounding.
It is. Cause it's like, they're like, oh man, I can barely do a plank for, oh, this is the first time I've done a plank in, I don't know how many years. And at the end, they're like, man, I can hold it for almost, over a minute now.
Yeah.
Or, like, oh, I haven't seen much, changes on the scale, but like my clothes are fitting better. I've gone down pant sizes.
Constantly saying that. Yep,
Yeah.
losing inches, losing sizes. Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, that's what I tell them. I try to tell them, like, let's not
Yeah.
focus on the scale, because it's like it's a losing battle, because if it goes up, then you're like, oh, I did something wrong. Then I'm gonna punish myself,
Right.
this week. So I got to work out twice as hard. And you're like, just don't. Like, how do you feel? How do you look?
Yeah.
Like, that's all that matters to me. As long as you feel better and like you look better, you've gone down a pant size or a shirt size, like, hey, that's a win in
Yeah.
my book, and that's the great thing too. It's like they, like, or they're like, oh man, I looked on the landing zone, like, and I found out, like kettlebells or TRX even, like, I didn't know we could do this much stuff. And they're just like, and it's like, yeah, just slowly add that into your repertoire. Like, you're going to
For
get
sure.
better and stronger. And then, like, they'll reach out a couple months later, like, like, man, I've lost, so much weight. I'm working out. Like, I started helping out other veterans in the area. And you're like, yeah, like, that's the great thing. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, you all know what, like this, family offers. And I don't, like everybody says, oh, but Catch Lift is a family,
Yeah.
it's like, once you're in it, like, you're in it, for life. Cause it's like,
Yeah.
no matter what, you still, like, I'll still text, like a veteran that I just helped with programming last year, Justin, it's like, hey, Justin, how you doing? He's like, oh, I'm great, man. Thank you. Like,
Yeah.
thanks for all
Right.
this. And it's just like, he's like, with your motivation, you've helped me change, like the way I look at life. And he's just like, I'm so much
Oh, it's
better.
tremendous. Yeah.
And that's the cool part, and I think that's, you sometimes you take it for granted.
Yeah. So, Adam, when you first started coaching with Catch a Lift, you were the band coach and longtime band coach and developed a really great program there. Talk to us a little bit about bands in general and just what you thought about working out with the veterans with the bands.
It was new to me, to like try to put together a program of just, like resistance bands. Like, I've used them for warm-ups. Like, we all know what they do, it's like,
Right.
but then when you finally start incorporating them into like movements and how like it helps strengthen just other parts of the body, because you're using it all to like brace yourself, or you're, it's like you're doing a workout, but you can go from one, a lightweight band to a heavy band, and again, like veterans will be like, oh man, I can only use the lightweight one. And then by the time you're done, you're like, man, I need, it's like, I need a heavier one, it's
Yeah.
like, and the great thing is like, I always tell every, veteran athlete that comes through is like, only do what you're comfortable with. And with the bands, it's great because you're not under heavy load,
Right.
but
Yep.
you're also offering yourself that resistance, and you're like, okay. And then it's like, you get that the feedback that isn't as bad as if you're under a heavy load,
Right. Yeah.
It's not a bar.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's like, you can, push yourself a little bit further.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you don't have to worry about like, oh, I gotta, like drop this bar, or I gotta, get this kettlebell off me. It's like, that's the great thing. It's like,
Yeah.
you slowly use it. And then again, like veterans are like, oh, I've never used bands. I don't know how I'm gonna feel about this. And then like you build up that slow progression of, through
Yeah.
the weeks. It's like, hey, start out with, maybe 2 to 3 sets of this. And then, you can go from the lightweight band maybe to the medium, or even, like to the extra heavy band, and like a lot of them really enjoy that, because, and also you can take it anywhere with you.
Yeah, exactly. It's so great. It's so portable.
It's like, and I think that's a big thing, is like, oh, I travel a lot for work. I was like, guess what? The bands can go with you.
Yep, exactly. Exactly.
And, it was, just like there's so many different types of bands. And I think, it's like, it confuses a lot of veterans because they think of just like the flat bands and not the tubular
Right.
bands.
Yep.
Or if I've worked with the tubular bands, but not the flat bands, so it's like, it takes a little bit of getting used to, but once, like thankfully Catch a Lift, you sent like a lot of like the movements, in the cards that every veteran gets, which is great, and I think showing them videos and that, like the visual as long with, with it
for
written
sure.
down, like they could put 2 and 2 together. Cause sometimes like for me, I'm a visual person. Like I have to see somebody do it. You could be like, hey, do a front squat. I'm like, okay, what is that? So it's, it's, and that was another rewarding, like coaching that was, I always joke that I was a rubber band man just because it was just like, it's just, they're basically giant rubber bands, but it was
Yeah.
another thing of just to see like the progression of 8 weeks. Like a lot of them are like, oh, I have shoulder, mobility issues, or I have, bad knees or bad. And it's like, what's great about these, it's like you can do, what your body tells you. And it's like, but it also helps you strengthen like your core, it helps you with your mobility in your shoulders and, in your legs. And that was a great thing. Cause a lot of these people would like, for me, it's like, oh, it's not as cool as, a barbell or,
Right.
like at the end of it, you're like, man, my back isn't, it doesn't hurt as often.
Exactly.
Shoulders, I
Yep.
have a little bit more mobility in them.
Yep. How do you feel?
How do you feel? And that's the great thing,
Yeah.
because everybody, we all know, like if you lift weights, like you want to be under a bar, but it's like when you're like, oh, I just do resistance bands, people are like, what? You're like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's like a lot of bodybuilders do that because you can't do the hypertrophy,
Right.
it's like, and I tell people that, and I was like, a lot of these, bodybuilders, they use a lot of band work. I'm like, really? And you're like, that's when they're like, oh, awesome.
Yep, for
So,
sure. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, we absolutely love bands at Catch Lift, and we've had great success with the band program for a number of years now, even before we started the official wellness programs and the groups. But something that is a new offering that we started offering within our 8-week wellness programs in 2003 was the TRX program. And we were so excited, Adam. You got certified as a TRX coach in December of last year, really learned that system inside and out. And you started coaching veterans in the TRX program. And for anybody listening that doesn't know or doesn't really understand what a TRX, Adam, is, could you kind of explain that to us?
I think is just like for me, like to, like kind of keep it simple, is just like it's, it's basically like a bigger band, but it's like, it's a strap, but you can also like, you have to have an anchor point, which is great though with this system that a lot of the veterans get is like, it comes with a door anchor because not everybody has the ability to, like, oh, I'm going to drill it into a, like a support beam, it's like, hey, I think it's another one, like it helps so much with, like people that have mobility issues or have injuries. It's like, because you're not putting your full weight on something, you have something that is supporting your weight, but it also is like, like, again, have helped coach, people that use it just for their accessory work, like myself, or sometimes if I want to use like, hey man, I need to work on, like, I'm going to try to get a single leg squat down, it's just like, it's helpful for that, and it's great. Like, again, you could take it anywhere with you,
Yep, that portable gym again.
it's that portable gym and it's that tangible thing. And I think that's
Yes.
also with like the resistance band is like, when you give a veteran that tangible thing, like, at least for me, they're more inclined to hit the workouts,
For sure.
because you, like I said, you have every type of a veteran athlete under the sun that you can coach. You can have some that have been, like, oh, I work out 5 times a week and, in a box. You're like, awesome. It's like, this is going to be great for you, Then you have some that I've been sedentary for the last 5 years, like, awesome. What's great about this? Like, you're only going to do what your body tells you to. You can't, like, I give them all, like, here's all the movements. This is how you do them. Like, this is where you have the strap length, and it's a great thing because it's another thing that helps them like realize their own strength again. It's like, it's not something that's just like, hey, I'm going to just throw you into the deep end. It's like, we're going to learn to walk before we can run, and that's what's great with the TRX. It's, it's strength training, but it's also mobility. It also can help you if you need stretches, like all these things that, before I got certified in it, I used to do classes, with my girlfriend, and I never really like, it's like, man, these are really great. But then when you find out like, oh, you can do all these other extra things with it, you're like, man, it's another added bonus for these veterans because it's like, it's not just for one thing. You can use multiple things. So it's another great, program that, Catch a Lift is offering. And, it's awesome that TRX is, partnered with us for that.
Yeah, we're so grateful to TRX for that. And so one of the benefits for veterans, if they choose the TRX group, if they need one, Catch a Lift will send them a TRX. The veterans get assigned to either you or they go to Coach Viv too and work on TRX for that 8 weeks. Adam, who would you say the TRX is for? If I was a veteran coming into the program, to you, who's kind of an ideal candidate or who should think about going the TRX route?
For me, I think, veteran athletes that really, want to work on their mobility or have, like in stretches, or, for me, it's going to help them, help, strengthen that core. Because a lot of us don't work on that. We've had poor
Right.
posture for a long
Yep.
time, especially, since COVID, the everybody's on computers most of the time. So you're
Yep.
slouched forward.
Yep.
So for me, it's someone that, wants to work on, no, he has mobility issues or has shoulder issues, hip, knees, it's not saying that anybody else, that wants to
Yeah.
do it can do it. But I feel like for me, those are the ones that are going to benefit the most from it, because it's going to help them realize like, oh, okay, this is where the discrepancy that I have that I can work on.
Right.
So you can
Yep.
target that specific thing, because, with TRX, you have upper, lower, like core exercises. And that's a great thing about it. Like you can total body workout, if you wanted to.
Yes.
And so it's like, for me, it's like those veterans that are like, man, like I have, I have a lot of back issues or back pain. It's like, I'm not going to say it's going to take it away, but it's
Yeah.
going to help you realize that, like, once I strengthen my core, like, oh man, like it's not as, prevalent. My back doesn't hurt, majority of the time. Not saying
Yeah.
take it away all the time, but it is helpful.
Yeah, I use the TRX quite a bit in my training, and I primarily like my training. Like I strength train, I train for the sport of strongman, but I use it quite a bit, and I have for years. And I was first introduced to the TRX a number of years ago, and I started using it to help me with mobility, shoulder mobility, and just doing stuff like moving laterally and like being able to do like Cossack squats and stuff like that, and being able to use that TRX as a tool to enable me to be able to do some of those movements. But there's a lot of other cool things you can do with them. Now I use the straps, I use them for dragging various things. I'll anchor them and do stuff, but it's an incredibly, like the band, right? It's an incredibly versatile piece of equipment that, you might just look at it and kind of take it at face value. But man, it's like when you dig into it, there's so much that you can use that piece of equipment for and so much that can be gained from it. What's some of the feedback you've gotten from veterans, Adam, going through the TRX program?
Majority have just been positive, which is,
Yeah.
like I understand sometimes people are like, negative about things, but it's like they've been all positive, which is great. They're like, man, I really love this. Like, it's like I add this, just to my weekly workouts, or it's like, oh man, this is really helpful for, 15, 20 minutes of, because I have a power lifter, there's CrossFit athletes that are just like, oh man, like this really helps me. Like if I need to, stretch something out, or, it's just like, I feel, oh, I can work on this side. It's like, that's what they do. And I'm like, hey man, like, that's great. And I also got to thank, Coach Viv, because me and her, like put our heads together and, came up with the 8-week program, and, it's crazy because, with the resistance band, it was like coming up with that program, but, there was some feedback of, like, hey, maybe we could do this, but this TRX program, it's been positive through and through, which is great, and, I can't be more happy about that, because like, as a coach, you want everybody to, to have positive, feedback, but I'm always welcome for like, hey, if there's something that doesn't work, let me know, it's like we can change it or fix it,
I think that's the biggest thing too. And, really regardless in the wellness programs, wherever you're at on your fitness journey, whether you're working, with Coach Rudder over in CrossFit, or you're working with one of the general fitness coaches, or it's a TRX veteran, working with you and Viv, if it's too easy at the onset, if it's like, man, I'm really struggling with this, like communicating with that with your coach, and it's like, okay, do we need to go up? Do we need to go down here? Because the beauty of all of this stuff is that it's scalable. And I think that's one of the great things about the TRX too, is that there's such clear progressions with how you use it, and I think that can really help people. And, once you kind of understand that system, how much you can get out of it. Adam, talk a little bit about, because again, we touched on it in the beginning, you get these veterans, these men and women in the 8-week program, the first few weeks, and whether it's kind of like low self-esteem as far as where they're at in their fitness, or just maybe they're new on that fitness journey. But as they get going, some veterans, they can really progress fast through that program. Or if it's a veteran that you're getting that's already an established athlete, how do you continue to challenge them and motivate them, especially kind of in that second 8 weeks, to keep pushing forward, keep grinding?
I always tell them, like for me, I always tell them like the ones that, are new to working out again. I always tell them like walking, is such an underutilized,
Yes.
exercise. And so for people like that, I was like, it's like if all these exercises are too easy for you, like I want to, push you to work, to walk at least 30 to 45 minutes a day, even if it's in your apartment,
That's a good
something
one.
like that.
Yeah.
I was like, because it, like it may not seem like a cool workout, but I was like, it's so underutilized, but it also helps you, like strengthen your joints, strengthen your bones. Like you're going to also lose a little inches if you're, like walking, everywhere. I love to walk,
Yeah.
like, like people are like, why? I was like, cause it's such a great exercise. You don't
Right.
have,
Yeah.
like you push your own pace. Like you don't have to,
This is true. Yeah.
if you want to, like, to push yourself, you can get a ruck, you can, or a weighted vest, I was like, there's so many great things that you could do, with walking, but also like with the TRX, like, well, if you do that, I was like, so get, like get closer or further away from the anchor point, like make it more
Changes it a
difficult,
lot.
like, like challenge yourself. Oh, if you could
Yeah.
do, if 3 sets are too easy, try to do 4, or, like maybe add more, reps to your sets, so it's like, there are ways to push a lot of these athletes that are like, oh, well, but then once you say like move further away from the anchor point or closer, like challenge
Yeah.
yourself, and they're like, okay, I see what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
It makes a huge difference. Completely
It does.
different game. Yeah.
It is, especially if you have to, make sure your hips are up, and you got to make sure everything's like, you're bracing yourself, everything's tight. You're like, oh, okay, I feel it now. You're like, yeah, it's like, do some, like do the back rows or do like the hamstring curls. Like, yeah, you think you're like, oh, these are gonna be easy. You're like, nope, never mind.
Yeah. It has a funny way of humbling you very quick, regardless, of how established you are using it. Like, yeah, it's no joke. Yeah, it's incredible. Adam, before we started here, today we were talking about, you're a very busy man. You've got a lot of stuff going on, and you're in school full time. You have a daughter. You're working at Catch Lift. You're coaching, a ton of veterans. There's got to be days where you're just like, man, I'm tired. I'm unmotivated. But I never see you slacking. I never see you, taking a day off and just kind of checking out. Adam, how do you keep pushing forward on days when it's like I'm busy, I feel overwhelmed?
It's actually the veterans, like when you see the reports or like just like a text from them or the email, it's just like when they're like, thank you for what, like Coach Adam does, he's always quick to offer a response, and that's what keeps me going. Cause there are some that are just, it's like you don't know if you're getting to them, like, hey man, like ask me questions, do this. And then you have some that are just like, I'm like, my phone's always on. Like, I'm not ever going to be like,
Yeah.
it's past working hours, just because I understand, like, if something does come up, like I want to be able to answer a question, or if they just need somebody to talk to, so it's like, it is the veteran athletes, it's like, once you get those amazing responses, and it's just like, oh, I am doing a good job. Cause
Yeah.
sometimes it's like, you don't, it's a, it is a thankless job, because it's like, you just want to see everybody succeed. And that,
Right.
I'm not just saying that. It's like, I love to see the veterans when I realize like their own inner strength and their
Absolutely.
perseverance. Cause it's like, we all did that, we all did that thing, and we all signed on the dotted line, and, yeah, most of the time it's forced exercise, but it was like, we still worked out, we still,
For sure. Yeah.
so it's like, once I see those, the responses, it's like, okay, like I am doing a good job. Cause
Yeah.
like you said, like you're busy with schoolwork, and then it's like, I'll be doing something, and then it's like, I see an email, like, so this athlete put in their, their weekly report, and you're like, okay. And then you see that good, like, thanks
Yeah.
for Adam, or I did something, they're like their goals, or they, they smashed a goal. It's like, that's like, really gets me going because it's like, hell yeah, like I am doing a great job, but it's like they also are hitting their own goals, you know. It's like, because you like seeing that, you want to see everybody succeed. So when you see that, it's just something that, you know, it can make any gray day into like a good day. So
This is true. Yeah.
you know, like, especially, you know, like you guys that see all the reports, like it's, you know, I know we get, you know, some during some meetings we get some of the highlights, but it's like a lot of it are saying these, you know, amazing things of what Catch a Lift offers and provides. And it's like, if when you know, tell other people about Catch a Lift, you're like, you know, like, oh, what do you guys provide? You know, yes, there is a grant. Yes, there is, you know, gym membership, but it's
Right.
like, there's also, you know, having you realize that your own strength and that you still can be active and you can still do all these things that you thought you couldn't do anymore because we're not 18, 19 years old.
Yeah.
You know, with the, even though our diets were like, some of us were like nicotine and caffeine, you know, like, but it's like, we can still do it. And that's what's great. You know, it's, you have, you know, Coach Nikki that does nutrition. So it's like, if you have some of your veterans that need that, you're like, hey, reach out to her. And then you see them, they're like, man, everything's going great. And then, you know, Coach Nikki reached out, or the nutritionist reached out, or I need help. I'm training for a marathon. Hey, Coach Jess, can you help me with this?
Right.
I don't like running more than a mile. Can you, you know, and that's the thing that keeps you going, is like, because it's this family, you know, it's just, everybody's there to support you, pick you up on, like, you know, days you can't, you think you can't keep going, but then you know you can. So it's, sorry, that was a long-winded answer.
No, that was a great answer. Thank you for speaking to that, Adam. I have one last question for you today. What does it mean for you? And you've talked about it a lot, right? But, you know, tell us really, what does it mean to you, Adam, to be able to be connected with this community of like-minded veterans day in and day out?
It's amazing, because they, you know, are quick to offer, you know, you support, or quick to offer you like, hey, here's, you know, another veteran resource, or, you know, like, this has helped some of, you know, my veteran brothers and sisters. Can you pass this on? And, you know, and then it's also awesome, you know, like Chadrick's one of my veteran athletes right now. He sends me photos of him just being out and about, which is
nice.
It's so amazing, because it's just like, you know, we maybe never met in person. We've met on, you know, like through video, but it's like, it's just simple things like that. Those small, simple things each day that, you know, it's like they're making a difference in your life, and you're making a difference in their life. And that's the amazing thing that Catch a Lift offers. It's not just, again, about the grant, you know, yes, that's an added bonus. But it's about all the different coaches that we have that have so many different backgrounds, that you can connect your veteran athlete to another coach that's like, hey, I want to get into this.
Cool.
And no matter any question that may arise, like, you know, you can reach out to any of the coaches at Catch a Lift to get an answer for your athlete, which is, a lot of the time people don't want to, you know, it's like, stay in your lane, you know, like, this is my, you know, expertise.
Right. Yeah.
Like, you know, like, if they want to come, you know, like, they should have picked me, you know, and like, there's, you know, like, the egos at Catch a Lift, you know, they're non-existent, because it's like, everybody is there to help everybody.
Yeah, it's an absolute tremendous community, and we're so very grateful for all of our veteran athletes, and so very grateful, Adam, to you and all the tremendous coaches at Catch a Lift that truly move this program. And you guys are making such an incredible difference in the lives of these men and women that you get to continue to serve. Thank you so much, Adam.
It's, you know, it's, like I said, it's being a coach is one of the most rewarding, you know, things I've done. You know, it's amazing. You know, I can't thank Catch a Lift enough. Can't thank you. Can't thank Lynn, head coach Jeremiah. You know, it's just like, the list can go on and on of, like, just each day I get to wake up and, you know, be grateful that I'm still here, and, you know, and be grateful that I do get to help other veterans, you know.
Yeah, it's incredible. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Coach's Corner. We're always so grateful to have the opportunity to connect with our members and our coaches and heal through the stories that we share together. A special thank you today to our guest, Coach Adam Gutierrez, for coming on and talking about coaching at Catch a Lift, bands, and the TRX system. Don't forget to join us every Wednesday live at 1 p.m. Eastern on YouTube for a chance to win Cal Swag and to chat with your brothers and sisters. If you like today's episode, please be sure to subscribe and like on YouTube and leave us a review on your favorite streaming service. Until next week, keep it real and stay Kale strong.